topic with a question to Colonel, and all colleagues will be able to supplement. And that question will be rather military question than energy question. Well, obviously, we see what is happening in Kiev, what is happening in Ukraine, Dnipro, Zaporozhye, etc. 30% of energy infrastructure destroyed by Iranian-made drones and S-300 rockets, as well as other rockets, fired by mortar to Ukraine to actually just destroy the energy system. And as we all know, we are also on the border with the same mortar as Ukraine is, and we are also experiencing potentially the same problems. Hopefully not, but potentially. That is very much possible. So, my question would be actually, what kind of physical protection measures and physical contingency plans, physical protection contingency plans are in place actually for the crucial energy infrastructure protection in Lithuania and our region? So, Colonel, if you may start. I know that you are probably restricted in your answers in that sense, but I know Giedrius.
When we reach that stage, during again
multi-layer air defense system.
Whatever you know, but this is defense planning. This is also national responsibility. We do that nationally. This is Article 3. If we are ready to protect ourselves, we can cope together when Article 5 comes to our state. But Ukraine is not a NATO nation, and probably they missed the capabilities which initially were seen not as important as it appears now. We have conducted exercise in Ukraine last year, just in autumn, in Odessa, and it was not the first activity done with Ukraine, as Ukraine is part of our center. They were also provided by recommendations, but my team, who is sitting here and listening, they will support me. Ukraine, they took very seriously recommendations. They have changed even their national legislation to reflect what has been found. And they, using very short term, they have changed their plans. And just a few weeks ago, we had a steering committee where Ukrainian representative, he was still appreciating effort of the international community, which was also helping to get them to the point. Exercise was an event. Recommendations were made not only by our center, but in fact, he stated that this helped Ukraine to keep their energy system operational for 7 months. Of course, you cannot replace, risk assessment, proper risk assessment with a real military threat, which is directly targeting the infrastructure. So, military answer is definitely now air defense, missile defense. If it's the same for Lithuania, I would say yes. You cannot, solve the critical energy infrastructure protection when you see the military threat is obvious. You need to have military countermeasures available.
Lithuania, as much as I know, has 2 batteries of NASAMS, some capabilities of RBS-70 short-range anti-aircraft missiles, some capabilities of anti-aircraft artillery from the old days, if they are still existent. Some, of course, Grom, man-pads, shoulder-fired missiles. Estonia, as much as I know, Latvia doesn't have any NASAM systems, so only short-range RBS-70 based air defense systems. So actually, yeah, that's pretty tricky from the physical point of view.
Maybe other panelists, they will come with kind of different reflection on that.
I know Giedrius has some idea how to help with the system, how to make it more resilient. Giedrius, by the way, has been working in the distribution system networks for many years before turning over to Evecon, and Evecon obviously is one of the main developers of renewable energy, wind and solar solutions in the region now.
So, hello everyone. Well, I'm a civilian, so I can honestly tell you, in my opinion, it's practically impossible to save critical infrastructure in Lithuania, because we're quite a little country. We have a little area, and we have, let's say, only a few critical points which needs to be taken out in order to us not to have electricity. So, looking at the situation that's happening in Ukraine, when thousands of missiles and shells are going, I think it's practically impossible to have 99.9% reliability from attack. So I think that if such an attack occurred in Lithuania, it's only a question when electricity as for centralized system would be taken out. So my question is, what can we do when it happens in order to us to have electricity? And I think that now what we are currently having is, let's make a decision to have decentralized network. Well, what I mean by decentralized, so it means even when the central system, so for example central substations, 330 kilovoltage lines are taken out, just to have some sort of supply of electricity, let's say for most important aspects, for example, lighting, fridge, water, to have, so this type of supply is still possible to have even after such an attack, and it doesn't require too much investment. When I'm thinking about, for example, we have more than 400 substations at 110 kilovoltage line and 35 kilovoltage line. So it means if we could make, even with small battery and inverter, each of those substations is a small island who can run for some time of electricity, I think that we would be in much better position. So in other words, my reply would be, of course we need to put missiles, but we must understand that it's very difficult to have this reliability, and then to have a scenario B and C, what's next. And decentralized system, for me, it looks like an answer.
So missile protection and batteries. So, Mr. Mariusz, maybe Polish view, what would you say on that?
Hello, thank you for the invitation, thank you for this question. I think it's very important to speak today about how to solve the problem with security, make it safe for the energy infrastructure. And I'm totally agree with you, because about the centralization and current war invasion Russia and Ukraine show us that very important is to decentralize the energy system, not only the distribution system but also power generation system, because in our part of Europe we are focused, or we are based on huge energy power plants. For example, in Poland there's several locations when the system, whole energy system, is based on these facilities. And the example of Ukraine war, invasion of Russia and Ukraine, show us that these facilities is one of the first target for the strike. And if you switch off these facilities, the whole country maybe not collapse, but there's some kind of change. Yeah, for living, for people, for also for military infrastructure, and that's the first case to transform energy transformation, which are focused on decentralization. It's also important not only from the climate prevention, but also for energy system prevention in time of war. And the second thing, I think it's because I'm a graduate of Polish Naval Academy, and from my perspective, I'm not military but I'm civil but from my perspective, for example, in Poland, in case of Poland, in the last 15 years, I think, we are strongly focused on diversification of source of energy. For example, natural gas or oil came to Poland. And we got an oil terminal in Gdańsk, the LNG terminal in Świnoujście. Right now, on the beginning of September, there was a commissioning of the Baltic Pipe. And in the future, we plan to build another FSRU terminal in Gdańsk. In next 10 years, we plan to build a wind farm on the Baltic. We got the Harmony linking plan with Lithuania. We got a Svepol link with the Sweden. The whole steps to diversification of source of energy and energy at all was focused on the Baltic Sea. And what's from the other side, from the prevention from security? Nobody in Poland, or less in Poland, think about how to secure these assets. Because Navy was degraded, Navy have a problem with modernization. We don't have any new ships, any new possibility to prevent that threat from the sea. We focus energy safety on the sea, but we don't build capabilities to secure these assets. So, from my opinion, that's it's two challenges for our energy system. So, the centralization of the system and lack of enough capabilities to secure the sea direction. I speak from Polish perspective. I think maybe other guests.
You want to supplement, probably Jaanus or vice versa, whatever.
Yes, so hello from my side again. It's a tricky question. I mean, as Hando Sutter also mentioned, we've gone very deeply into different kinds of scenarios, and believe me, you can always imagine scenarios where you cannot do anything. So I don't know, maybe we should do something about a potential meteor strike. That could wipe something out. So these very doomsday-like scenarios are not. It's not that reasonable to think about them all the time, but still you need to think what you can do. So
it's not so much about solutions, even it's more about the procedures. What will you do when something happens?
Yes. So first of all, I don't know whether it reached also to other countries' media, but our Prime Minister some time ago actually went to the media, made a public announcement. In addition to everything else, she also said that we should be ready for potential disruptions in electricity supply. So it doesn't have to be anything military. It could be whatever. The risks are higher, so people should be ready. So if you have your own home, then I don't know, local electricity generation, batteries, etc.
Firewood.
Firewood also, yeah. So that's something you can do to get ready. But also from the public sector side, we've for years mapped the essential services providers, essential locations. So these ones will be cut the latest, or will be reconnected first if that's possible. So to have these plans in place, it is useful, but I think the first line of defense for us is being in the EU and NATO, so, and then all of the other things come. And also redundancy. We need more redundancy, which we have scaled back to get everything more efficient, but as we see, we need to have several of everything. So everything that's distributed, electricity production in different places, that's very good to increase the resilience of the grid.
Yeah, so decentralization, spare capacity of production, physical protection, batteries, and local networks.
Yeah, again, where we started with strategy, policy level, right? And we see that we have long-term solution now. Everyone is happy. But the questions you just brought suggest that probably policymakers supposed to once again turn back to the strategies and to rethink their future projections. When it goes to contingency plans, this is what you do with whatever you have in hand already today, tomorrow. Probably we had some ideas, you know. We understand that not necessarily being military, that not necessary to carry all eggs you have in the one basket, you know. If you drop the basket, all eggs will be destroyed. This goes to centralization. This is back again to resiliency, system resiliency. Even though the energy system resiliency, security of energy supply resiliency. Whether this resiliency is achieved by alternatives of supply. If you ask a question, you know, and from today's presentation, I understood target number one in case of crisis, military scenario, independence is lower. But whether this is end of the game? No. If we can receive gas from Poland or Latvia or wherever, so this is diversification of supply, not necessarily from the source who owns that gas, but a different direction. And this is again, those arrangements are supposed to be in place. This is what supposed to be built in the strategy, in the plans. Short term, again, can you make that? I'm not so professional. That's probably somebody from operators level can say how long it would take to reconstruct the grid system, which is designed to operate in the centralized way to decentralized. So probably there will be some waiting time. Whether this waiting time is good for us, this is again answer to be provided.
Giedrius had some idea on that.
So a few more thoughts. So regarding centralized system, we must understand that usually it's custom-made equipment. Of course, you can replace with something, but usually it takes months, maybe even years. So if we are talking about lower level equipment, such as middle voltage, etc., usually you have it in stock. And those works can be carried out in a few days. And what I also wanted to share that a few years ago, in fact, we have like, let's say, drills for national security, only it was made by snow. Maybe you remember.
Mother Nature, yes.
Yeah, so we had like almost 400,000 households which were disconnected due to heavy snowfall. And it was very interesting for me at that moment. I was looking, of course, it was like a big, let's say, even tragedy. And a lot of people working day and night for 7 days restoring. But there were still households which were without electricity for 5 or 7 days. And we saw that like 90 plus households do not have anything alternative on energy. Even if the heating is heat pumps, they have electric vehicle, still.
All is electricity.
All is electricity, and only some of them had some fireplaces where they can burn wood. So so for me, there are two aspects. The first one, how we can redo our energy network in order to have as most as possible decentralized system. And second one is how to prepare society to have at least energy sources for 1 week or something. And this like heavy snowfall 2 years ago, I think, was a very good lesson, which was not completely learned by let's say military, society, and the right conclusions were not made at that moment.
Simple, stupid example, everybody's being taught in survival, courses is candles. You have a lot of candles, you essentially can heat the home.
I remember the worst scenario was like there was a person on life support, and he hadn't electricity. Like he had electricity like for 4 hours only. After that, UPS, some simple device. Of course, also brought generators, etc. But still, I think you have to think about it.
Yeah. So small things, but think locally and globally. So to speak. Anybody else want to ask a question? Something in connection to this? No. Okay, so we're running low on time, but essentially the second set of questions is more about the interconnectors and let's say security of supply, that was also mentioned and is crucial. So let's start with Poland. Poland has been very much dependent on coal energy for many years. Interestingly enough, most of that coal came from Russia somehow, not from the Polish mines as everybody has thought. Now, obviously, the situation has changed. Gas supply from Russia is kind of cut now. We have new Baltic pipeline opened from Norway. So how does this, let's say, talking specifically about, let's say, gas sector, how does Poland look like in gas supply security today?
So first of all, my remarks about the coal. In Poland, we output the coal is something about 57 million tons per annum. The most of this coal going to the Polish electricity power plant. It's all something about 80% of this 57 million ton. Some about 7 million ton going to the steel plants. It's a type of coal to steel plants. And just 2 million tons is going to the social, to the households, for example, or heating plants in the little cities, for example. And that's a problem. Not with this electricity coal, because the most of consumed in Polish electricity power plants came from Polish mines, but the problem is for the households. Households in Poland consume something about 30 million tons this kind of coal annually. So if we produce in Poland 2 million tons, we have to import about 11 million tons. Mostly of that, something about 8-9 million tons going from Russia, because it's a good sort of coal.
It was cheaper essentially.
Maybe not so cheap, but it's about the quality of this coal. It's a good coal for households and for heating system plants, and it was preferred from the consumer. Right now we got embargo for Russian coal, and we have to replace it to import from abroad, from Colombia, from South Africa, from Indonesia. It's a huge problem logistically, and it's a huge problem politically in Poland right now, because there is a low level of this coal in the stocks. So the price going up something about 5-6 times previously compared to the last year. So the people are very mad about that. But to your question, right now in Poland we consume something about 20 billion cubic meters of natural gas per annum. In this year it will be 70, because the gas consumption dropped because of the high price of this source of energy. And right now we are quite good diversity if we talk about the sources of this gas, because the LNG terminal in Świnoujście is got capacity of right from the January will be almost 8 billion cubic meters per annum. We got Baltic pipe 10 billion cubic meters, and just these two sources give us totally diversification if we look for the current consumption. We also got gas production in Poland is about 4 billion cubic meters per annum, and of course new interconnectors with GPL, with Lithuania. It's about 2 billion cubic meters, and it's linked with the Klaipėda LNG terminal. And we got freshly open interconnector with the Slovakia. It's a huge interconnector because it's over 5 billion cubic meters of natural gas in both directions. So from the gas perspective, we don't have currently a lot of problems with the diversification, and I think it's quite good. But we have to remember that the price of this natural gas is very high, extremely high, and that's a problem. Not the source or direction of where we can take a gas from abroad, but the price of this gas is very, very problematic.
I would turn also to Estonia. How it is in Estonia? I know that the Klaipėda LNG terminal, when it was built, was essentially meant to supply the Lithuanian need and Baltic need as such. Baltic connector with Finland was built also to kind of tap into the gas market of Finland, which nobody expected to be disconnected from Russia, obviously. So now we have the situation that especially Klaipėda LNG is supplying Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, part of Finland and even part of North Poland, which it was not meant to do, obviously, from the beginning. So I know that in Baltisk, Alexela is building the new LNG terminal, also in the form of FSRU, and it will be coupled with a Finnish initiative. So maybe you could tell us more about this, how it's progressing, and what are the newest developments.
Yes. So after 24th of February, which is now a very, very sad day, coinciding with our national holiday, we sat down very quickly to see what the major risks for us would be after this world-changing event. And we identified 3 key risks. So these are very obvious. Electricity, we are synchronized with the Russian grid, gas, natural gas, and liquid fuels. So regarding electricity and liquid fuels we have reserves. Electricity synchronization project is ongoing. We also limited the import capacities. Now it's 0 anyways, but very soon after the war started, we limited it. Now, regarding the natural gas, so Estonia's consumption is the lowest in the region. So it used to be 5 terawatt-hours per year. We will probably get to 3.5 terawatt-hours this year annually. So that's a 30% reduction. So we are the lowest. That's about 3.5 ships cargoes of LNG. So just to have the LNG terminal for us seems kind of expensive. And before the Russian gas stopped, it wasn't reasonable to have another LNG terminal. There was no economic point to have it. Now the math doesn't add up together with Finland, so it's even with reductions, the Finns have done very well as well. I think they will reduce about 50% of their consumption. Yeah.
Wow.
Because they were always prepared for these redundancies, for these situations that the gas could be cut for some time, but never for indefinitely. So the Baltic connector is supplying them now, but the Baltic connector is not enough for their winter peak. It was never meant to be. So it is a reasonably sized gas pipeline, but not for the peak consumption. So this is why we started with the LNG terminal project together with Finns. They were the ones who rented the FSRU. So the FSRU is on its way. It is having some winterization done because obviously it's a colder region in our parts of the world. But it will get to our region in the middle of December. So the numbers are adding up quite nicely. So we will need the new LNG cargoes from January about. So we have enough storage for the region in the Latvian gas storage, enough capacities from the Klaipėda LNG, even with some of it going to Poland. So when we started in spring, Finns said they will not be ready by the end of this year because they hadn't done pre-development that we had. So we went for it, and they started rapidly building as well. So now they are able to finish their terminal by mid of December. We will be finishing end of November. So we are quite on the same schedule.
That's a perfect timing almost.
Yes, but this is good. It's much better than what we thought in spring that could happen. So in spring, you could think that by this time the underground storage is empty already. So, but now we are in a much better situation. And now we have 2 terminal locations that will be ready by the end of this year. So that means that if there is a problem on the Finnish side, the ship can come to the Estonian side, or if there is a business case, you can get an FSRU from the world, then you could use it. So in that sense, we are very well off, but it is mostly the new LNG terminal is needed to cover the Finnish demand, and in that sense, it's reasonable to have it on their side. And the costs that we have made are for ensuring security of supply. So it's nothing to do about it. It's better to have two of them than none of them. So we are in a very good situation going into this winter.
So, dire need is a matter of good solutions and quick solutions. I mean, building an FSRU terminal in 6 months, that's something, obviously.
Yes, they've done an excellent job. They worked around the clock, so both the ones who built the jetty, so the Alexela and Importer, and Elering, our TSO, who luckily had some pipeline left over from Baltic Connection construction, which is the only reason why you couldn't get this pipe from the world by this time, but they just had it lying around nearby. So it was very lucky.
So what must be? Glück muss sein, as the Germans say, yes. With that positive